The global economy has always been a complex and interconnected system, but today it feels as if its movement is more personal than ever. From small towns to megacities, people wake up to rising prices, unstable jobs, fluctuating currencies, and a seemingly endless stream of crises that seem to move faster than solutions. The feeling is universal. Hard work and careful planning no longer guarantee stability. The invisible collapse is the growing gap between effort and outcome, a gap that stretches across continents and cultures, affecting people whether they are in emerging economies or developed nations. Economic systems are not abstract. They shape daily decisions in ways that feel intimate and unavoidable. Families adjust how they spend on food, energy, and education. Entrepreneurs struggle to balance expansion with volatile markets. Students calculate whether their future earnings will justify current investment in education. Even small fluctuations in interest rates, fuel prices, or trade tariffs ripple outwards, influencing thousands of choices worldwide. The cumulative effect is a constant pressure that is both visible and invisible, tangible yet psychologically exhausting. Part of the reason this collapse feels personal is the concentration of wealth and power. Globally, a tiny fraction of individuals and corporations control a disproportionate share of resources. This concentration limits opportunities for others, regardless of talent or effort. Markets that once allowed upward mobility now favor those already advantaged. Access to capital, education, and networks has become increasingly restricted, while competition grows fiercer for those outside the top tier. The result is frustration, confusion, and a deep sense of injustice that transcends borders. Meanwhile, technological advancement accelerates change faster than institutions can respond. Automation, artificial intelligence, and digital platforms disrupt labor markets and industries worldwide. Jobs that once provided stability and identity disappear, replaced by transient, gig-based, or precarious positions. Skills that were valuable a decade ago may no longer be relevant, forcing workers to adapt constantly. This global shift creates a silent pressure cooker, where billions of people must balance survival with the demand to constantly upgrade themselves just to keep pace. Global crises, from climate change to political instability, exacerbate the problem. Economic shocks in one part of the world quickly spread to others. Supply chain disruptions, energy shortages, and currency volatility transmit stress across borders. What was once a local or national concern now becomes an international one, linking individuals' economic fates to events hundreds or thousands of miles away. This interconnectedness creates both opportunity and vulnerability. While markets and trade can lift millions, a single disruption can ripple unpredictably, leaving many caught in uncertainty. The invisible collapse is compounded by the psychological impact of these realities. Humans are not designed to process constant uncertainty at a systemic scale. The mind interprets unpredictability as threat, triggering stress responses that diminish creativity, decision-making, and long-term planning. Globally, people report higher levels of anxiety, fatigue, and disengagement from economic participation, not because they are incapable, but because the environment is demanding, chaotic, and opaque. The challenge is no longer simply work harder, but navigate smarter. Asterisk debt, in its many forms, has become both a lifeline and a trap worldwide. From student loans to mortgages, microloans to credit lines, debt enables people to access opportunities but also imposes constraints that shape every choice. In emerging economies, debt is often the difference between education or stagnation, business creation or collapse. In developed nations, debt amplifies risk, limiting mobility and personal freedom. Globally, individuals are tied to obligations that consume energy, limit risk-taking, and reduce the ability to pursue long-term goals, often without meaningful compensation. Housing markets illustrate this invisible collapse in stark terms. Urbanization has created high demand for limited space, while speculative investment drives prices far beyond local incomes. Even in rural or smaller communities, global capital flows influence property prices, affecting affordability. Millions find themselves in cycles of renting or precarious ownership, where housing consumes an unsustainable share of income. Across continents, the dream of stable shelter, basic human need, has become a source of anxiety, forcing people to reallocate time, effort, and resources away from other goals. Technological disruption adds another layer. Automation, AI, and digital platforms create opportunities for some while rendering others obsolete. Freelance and gig work may provide flexibility, but it often lacks security, benefits, and predictability. Those outside elite skill clusters face instability despite high levels of effort. Globally, the reward for hard work no longer guarantees progress. Talent alone cannot overcome structural shifts, leaving many to feel that effort is decoupled from reward. The result is both economic and psychological strain, manifesting as exhaustion, self-doubt, and disengagement. Supply chain vulnerabilities highlight the fragility of global interdependence. A localized disruption, a natural disaster, a factory closure, a political dispute can trigger shortages worldwide. Prices fluctuate, goods become scarce, and people experience sudden, tangible consequences of distant events. This interconnectedness demonstrates the double-edged nature of globalization. It amplifies growth, innovation, and efficiency, but it also creates exposure to shocks that are beyond any individual's control. Awareness of this creates a pervasive tension, a subtle sense of vulnerability that persists even in daily routines. The social contract, long assumed to support stability, is under strain in many countries. Health systems, pensions, education, and social protections are increasingly inadequate or inconsistent. People must fill gaps themselves, relying on personal savings, informal networks, or alternative strategies to survive. The cost of survival becomes a full-time endeavor, leaving little room for creativity, learning, or long-term investment, economically, socially, and psychologically. Individuals feel under pressure not because they are weak, but because the system is misaligned with human needs. Understanding the global, invisible collapse requires thinking in systems, not just anecdotes. It requires recognizing patterns of inequality, technological disruption, and market volatility while analyzing how these trends intersect with human behavior. Individuals who navigate this environment successfully are those who act strategically, building resilience, identifying leverage, and maintaining long-term perspective even amid uncertainty. Knowledge is one of the most critical forms of leverage. Understanding how interest rates affect borrowing, how supply chains shape prices, how global markets interact with local economies. These insights transform abstract anxiety into actionable decisions. Awareness does not eliminate challenges, but it allows people to prioritize, plan, and respond effectively rather than reactively. In an unpredictable environment, information becomes a tool for adaptation, survival, and opportunity. Psychological resilience is equally important. Accepting uncertainty as inherent rather than exceptional reduces wasted energy. The question is not whether the system will favor you, but how you can navigate it effectively. Small, consistent actions building skills, cultivating networks, maintaining savings, investing intelligently accumulate into meaningful buffers against systemic volatility. Globally, individuals who embrace these strategies gain relative stability, opportunity, and confidence, even when broader circumstances remain turbulent. Finally, the invisible collapse is also an invitation. It forces reflection on personal priorities, values, and purpose. It encourages adaptation, learning, and innovation. While structural inequalities cannot be ignored, personal agency applied strategically can mitigate risk and maximize opportunity. The global economy is not benevolent, and it is not fair, but those who understand it, prepare for it, and align their actions with its realities are best positioned to survive, and perhaps even thrive in this era of uncertainty. Asterisk, asterisk, finally, perspective is essential. While short-term volatility can be overwhelming, long-term thinking provides stability. Small, consistent actions accumulate over time, creating compounding results that weather immediate turbulence. Planning, patience, and persistence are the foundations of success in an unstable environment. Economic storms may disrupt, but those prepared with knowledge, resilience, and adaptability can transform risk into growth. The invisible collapse, when approached strategically, becomes not a source of despair but a proving ground, an arena where foresight, preparation, and courage generate advantage. In summary, the modern global economy is unpredictable and often feels adversarial. Yet, by combining adaptability, diversified skills, financial literacy, emotional resilience, continuous learning, and collaboration, individuals can navigate volatility with confidence. Opportunity exists within chaos for those who refuse to be paralyzed, who act deliberately, and who persist with clarity and vision. This is not merely survival. It is thriving in a complex, interconnected, and uncertain world.